For your rajas quesadillas, you're going to need your tortillas, your pepper jack cheese, some warm and smoky salt blend, guacamole, a poblano pepper, a red onion, cilantro, some tomatoes, red wine vinegar, your sour cream. Then you're going to need some olive oil and some salt and pepper. I'm going to start by dicing my tomatoes, just cutting off that top. And I always keep my paper bag. I'm just gonna cut the tomato into strips like so, and then cut these into strips and just give it a good dice. I'm gonna do that with all of my tomato. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut my onion in half from root to tip, and then I'm gonna cut off the tip and the root, and then we're gonna remove that outer layer. Get rid of all the papery skin. And I'm just going to slice this into thin slices. And I'm going to do this to both halves of my onion. So my whole onion is sliced, and I have pulled a couple pieces off that we're just going to go ahead and mince, and this is going to be for our salsa. I'm just kind of cutting it into smaller little pieces so that you have about 2 tablespoons, and that looks to be about 2 tablespoons for me. So perfect, just like this, and you can go ahead and add that to your diced tomato. Next, we're going to dice up our poblano. This is what makes it a rajas quesadilla. Rajas are just pieces of poblano that have been sauteed, and then cheese and sour cream is usually added, and it's like a dip sometimes. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this in half like you would a bell pepper. Poblanos have a little bit of spice in them, but they're fairly mild. And we're just going to go ahead and remove the seeds. And any of the white rib that might be in there. So unlike a jalapeno, these seeds aren't going to be super spicy. So if a couple are left behind, it is fine. So then we're just going to cut this into strips. Like so. And I'm going to cut this strip in half because it was kind of big. And so then I'll just take all my strips, and then I'm just going to give this a dice, and I'm going to do this to the other half of my poblano as well. To chop up my cilantro, I need to remove all the leaves from these stems. You don't want any of those thick stems on there. So I just removed it all, and you're just going to take cilantro and just give it a rough chop, and you're going to actually save or you're going to use the cilantro in 2 ways. Half of it's going to go into the salsa, and then the other half is going to go into your rajas mixture after you finish cooking it. Here we have our cilantro. To make the salsa, I have half of my cilantro, the minced onions, and half of my tomatoes. I'm going to go ahead and just add like a splash of vinegar. And then we're going to season this with a little bit of pepper. And then plenty of salt. And then just give that a good toss. And then you can taste and adjust the seasonings as necessary. To make the crema, I have a 1/4 teaspoon of the warm and smoky spice blend. And I'm just going to add 1 of my sour creams. You're going to save the other half for the filling. And then we're going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And then we're going to add about a teaspoon of water at a time. And we're going to combine this. We want it to have like a very drizzly consistency. not so much like a dipping consistency. So as you can see, this is still pretty thick. So I'm going to add another like teaspoon of water until we have a much more thinned out. Still a little too thick. All right. So that is more of a drizzling consistency, as you can see. So just like that. In a large saute pan, I'm going to heat up some oil. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my onion, poblano, and then actually half of the tomatoes you needed to save to add to the skillet. And then we're just going to add some salt. And let this cook for like 7 to 8 minutes until the filling is nice and soft. Now that my vegetables are nice and soft, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of water and the rest of my warm and smoky spice blend. And I'm going to let this cook just for like 2 to 3 minutes. If it starts to get like too dry, you can add a little bit more water as you go. So we're just going to heat this through and let this cook for 2 to 3 minutes. So my mixture has finished cooking. I've removed it from the heat, and I'm going to go ahead and add my other sour cream. And then my remaining cilantro. And then a little salt and pepper. And then just give this a good stir all together. And so this is going to be our the rajas filling for our quesadillas. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this mixture to a bowl and wash this pan to make my quesadillas in. To assemble our quesadillas, we're going to take half of our Mexican cheese blend onto each tortilla. Just kind of try and spread it. I'm going to try and just kind of put it all to 1/2 since we're going to fold it in half anyways. And then you're going to take half of your filling. And just spread it all out. And then you're gonna take the pepper jack cheese and sprinkle half of that onto each tortilla. And then just fold these in half like so. All right, so I actually switched pans to a larger pan so I can fit both. But if you don't have a larger pan, you can just cook each quesadilla at a time. So I'm adding a little bit of oil. And then I'm just going to carefully add my quesadillas. Like so. Get some on this side. And we're just gonna cook this for a couple minutes on each side until they're nice and golden brown. Now that our quesadillas are finished, you can go ahead and cut these how you like and serve it with your guacamole, the crema, and your salsa.